building was only a year old, but already it was a derelict. Already vines were growing up the walls. Windows were busted out. Weeds were growing through the cracks in the concrete, sidewalks, and the asphalt parking lots. People who accidentally stumbled past the new high school looked at that brand new building in such sad shape already and wondered how a new building fell into such disrepair so quickly. Well, the people in this impoverished little community did not want their new high school to be 10 miles off the main road to begin with, surrounded by swamp and forest. But when the rich land developer Marvin Platt offered to donate materials and labor for a state-of-the-art high school for their children if he could live on the new plot where he planned to build a new community, what could they do? The old high school had burned down 4 years before, and for 4 years, those kids had been going to school in portable buildings. For 4 years, there had not been one athletic team. For 4 years, there had not been one extracurricular activity. And when Marvin Platt offered to build them a new high school, they kind of had to take it what he said it was going to be in the middle of the swamp. He said, "Oh, I'm great in that swamp. We're going to have houses all around that high school. You're going to be so happy your kids lived it there." And surely, in September, that the high school opened, everybody was delighted. It was beautiful. It had the newest and the best of everything. And the people in the community thought, well, maybe Marvin Platt, maybe this is a good idea, this high school way out here. At least that's what they thought until homecoming. The homecoming dances were the last anybody ever saw of Stacy Martin. Stacy Martin was last seen storming out of the gymnasium door. They saw her blonde curls going out the door. She was in tears. They saw the fog rolling in off the swamp. And the dance went on without Stacy Martin. All the kids said, oh, she's just a poor sport because she came in second runner-up for homecoming queen. She doesn't like having to wear the little pink tiara with the little pink rhinestone number 2 in it. She wanted the big diamond tiara with the rhinestone number 1. She never has been a good sport. Well, the real reason Stacy left the dance crying is because she had walked in on her boyfriend, star quarterback, making out with the head cheerleader under the bleachers. When he was interviewed the day after she disappeared, he said, listen, she knew I was going to break up with her anyway. She knew it was over. And when she didn't come back for her ride home, I figured maybe she had picked up somebody else and got a ride. So I didn't hang around for her. They interviewed Stacy's mother and found out that Stacy had come from a troubled home. Her mother said, oh, that girl's been threatening to run away since she was 15. Well, she turned 18 last week, and she can do anything she wants to, and if she's run away, frankly, I don't want her back. So they put her picture up in the post office, put her picture up on the grocery store bulletin board, and pretty much forgot about her. Till February. That was the evening of the opening of the senior play. And during the first act, the stage manager, Justin Hubbard, noticed that one of the sets was starting to come loose and needed to be reinforced with a screw, but nobody could remember where they had put the toolbox. He said, never mind, I'll go get the box out of my trunk. I know I've got a screwdriver there. And the last anybody ever saw of Justin Hubbard was his purple dreadlocks going out the stage door and the fog rolling in. He did not make it. At the beginning of the second act, he did not make it to the curtain call. He did not make it to the cast party. He never made it back to school at all. Now, the principal realized 2 kids disappearing in 1 year. This would be bad, not only for school spirit, but also for his career. And even though he cooperated with the authorities, he never lost an opportunity to talk about Stacy's unwholesome family life and Justin Hubbard's artsy disposition. That boy had purple dreadlocks, come on. How many red-blooded American boys walk around with a book of poetry in their hip pocket? That little red poem book was always with Justin. He said, you know, boys like that who have tattoos and a piercing in their tongue, well, they're likely to be experimenting with drugs too. And I just think Justin might have made some bad decisions regarding drugs and a swamp. And if he OD'd anywhere near that swamp, he's alligator food. You know that. And that was kind of what everybody decided had happened to Justin Hunter. Well, prom season came around. And some of the kids had to work really hard on their parents to get them, to allow them to go to the prom. Carly started working on her mom right away. Carly said, Mama, I know how much you worry about me when I go to extracurricular activities at school, but I promise I'll be careful. Mama, this is the only chance I'll ever have to go to a prom. I've never been to a high school dance before. This is the first big formal of my life. And Zach wants to go, so if you don't let me go, I'll have to break up with him so he can ask another girl. Carly and Zach have been going to dance since they were freshmen and practicing age. Carly's mother said, just promise me. Be careful. Well, the night of the prom, Carly came down the stairs with her purple gown on, her red hair just flowing down that back of that gown. Zach pinned a little pink rosebud corsage on her. Zach looked beautiful in his tuxedo with his red tie. Carly's mom waved him off and thought, man, there's a couple of cute kids. Yeah, a couple of cute kids who made the big mistake of going outside for a breath of fresh air during the dance. It was stuffy in the gym. They were just going to go walk around on the football field a little while, get a breath of air. The last thing anybody ever saw of them was the gym door opening, the fog rolling in, Carly and Zach going on. They walked along the football field, and the fog surrounded them. And by the time they realized they had lost their bearings, it sounded as though the music were coming from the ground beneath their feet. The band in the gym sounded like it was right there all around them, and they didn't know which direction the gym lay. The fog was so thick they couldn't see. Carly tripped and fell into a gopher hole and sprained her ankle. And now she was hobbling, and her ankle was hurting and swollen. And Zach said, I can't even walk with you up there because you can't walk. And you're too heavy for me to carry. What are we going to do? And then, oh man, he said, thank heaven. There's the green light in front of the janitor's shed. The janitor's on duty. They'll take us back in the pickup. We're fine. So they hobbled a few yards over to the janitor's shed and they knocked on the door. But the school janitor is not the one who answered the door. This was a strange little man. He was short, he had yellow teeth, his hair was thinning. They said, where's Mr. Biscombe? He looked at him and he said, Mr. Biscombe's off. My name's Rodney. I do the extracurriculars. What do you want? Zach said, well, my girlfriend sprained her ankle and we can't find our way back up to the dance. We were wondering, could you take us in the pickup? Well, I'll try. But on these foggy nights, that pickup, it's a piece of crap anyway. I can barely ever get it started, and on these foggy nights, it takes forever. You wait here.
Okay, guys.
I'll go see what I can do.
Total respect.
So they sat down in a couple of folding chairs there in the janitor's shed. But instead of going out the door and around to the garage where the pickup was parked, they saw this Rodney guy go to the back of the janitor's shed and make a big deal out of closing the closet door, turning the deadbolt, pulling out the key. He put the key on top of the door jamb. Carly said, what's in there? You don't want to know. It's gross. And it's my business, so don't you go snooping in here. They sat down. Rodney went out the door of the janitor's shed, and they heard him turn the bolt in that door too. And they were locked in. And then they heard the sound of an engine being started, but it wouldn't quite kick in. They heard the sound of the engine of that pickup get deader and deader and deader and deader. They heard the sound of Rodney cursing over there in the garage, heard the sound of metal clanking and tools being clanked and hit against a hood. They heard Rodney working on the truck, and they thought, oh man, this is going to take forever. Carly kept looking at the closet door. She said, what do you suppose he's got in there? Is it Playboys or what? I don't know, said Zach, but we know where the key is. I'll go look. So Zach got out of his chair and he reached the key down and he undid the deadbolt and opened the door. And Carly said, "What's in there, Zach? What is it?" Zach didn't say a word. He couldn't talk. He was throwing up. Carly said, "Zach? Zach, what's the matter?" She hobbled back to where he stood. She peered over his shoulder into the closet, and there, she couldn't make sense of what she was seeing. Because there on a shelf between the toilet paper and the paper towels, there was a little shrine made up. And in that little shrine, there was a pink rhinestone tiara with the number 2 spelled out. And rhinestones on it, and there was a little red leather book of poetry, the sonnets of Shakespeare. And on the mop rack, where the mop head should be, well, it looked like wigs, only they were really ratty wigs. There were yellow ringlets. There were purple dreadlocks. And at their feet, there was a bucket, a mop bucket full of some dark, viscous liquid that a wild, sickening smell emanated from. And Carly put it all together, and she realized what they were looking at. Right then, the sound of an engine roaring to life in the garage next door startled them back into the present tense. "He's coming," said Carly. "He's coming, quick, lock the door." And she hobbled back to her chair. Zach was so nervous. His hand was shaking so much, he barely got the key turned. And in the process of it, he knocked the bucket and slopped some red liquid onto the floor. But he got the door shut. He got the lock turned. He put the key on the jamb and he slid back into his seat just as Rodney opened the door. Rodney looked in and he said, "Y'all look a little flushed and out of breath. Did I walk in on anything?" "No," they said. "No, we've just been sitting here." "Y'all ain't been misbehaving while I've been gone now, have you?" "No, we've just been sitting here," said Zach. Said Rodney. "Well, what is this that I see on the floor behind your chair, young man?" They looked around, and on the floor, from Zach's chair to the closet door, was a streak of red. Rodney said, "Appears to me you all disobeyed me. Appears to me you've been snooping where you had no right to snoop. Appears to me I got to punish you." Well, now for a small man, Rodney was incredibly fast and incredibly strong. He had Carly tied down with bungee cords to the folding chair she was sitting in about 30 seconds. Zach took about a minute and a half, but with 6 bungee cords, he too was finally subdued. Rodney got 2 strips of wide duct tape plastered them over their mouths. And in 10 minutes, Zach was sitting there bald, his hair piled around him on the floor. And Rodney was working on Carly's long red ringlets. And he was saying, "You know what? I had a feeling I wouldn't be needing to pick up at all tonight. It's just as well. That piece of machinery has given us nothing but trouble since the day we bought it. I tell you what, though, there's one piece of machinery out there in that garage I wouldn't trade the world for. Best investment this school ever made. That tree chipper. Can you hear it humming? Purrs like a kitten. My only complaint with it is that it will not grind up human hair, but that's a minor quibble, don't you think?" He said, "Now, little missy, excuse me, but I want to take that corsage you're wearing. Those pink flowers will go so pretty with that little pink tiara in my shrine. And it seems a shame to waste something so fresh and beautiful by grinding it to pieces. And young man, I'll have that red satin bow tie you're wearing. It's the exact same shade of red as that little book of poems. Thank you very much for enriching my shrine." It was graduation. It had been a hard year, the first year in this high school. Veronica Milbank was the valedictorian, and she had been working for weeks on her speech. She wanted to give her classmates a note of hope, a note of hope for their future. It had been a rough year, what with Stacy running away so early in the year, and then poor Justin, had he OD'd, had he committed suicide, no one would ever know, and then Carly and Zach, of all people, eloping like that, not even calling their parents to tell them they were okay. Veronica wanted to inspire her classmates, and so she thought she'd go through her speech just one more time before the procession. She walked out the back door of the gym. She didn't notice the fog rolling in from the swamp. She paced up and down the football field going over that speech, those lines she'd been working on so hard all these weeks. She wasn't aware that the fog had enshrouded her and cut her off from the rest of the school. It wasn't until the processional music started playing that she woke out of her reverie, and she looked around for where the gymnasium was, but she couldn't see in the fog, and it felt as though the music were coming from the ground beneath her feet. She couldn't get her bearings, and she thought, I need to be up there. I need to be leading the procession. I've got to give a speech today. What am I going to do? I got to get back there right now. No problem. The green light was on in front of the janitor's show. The janitor was on. He'd take her back in the pickup.